From another closed locations, for reasons of security and insecurity, we present to you tonight MnRTV Live Show, The Presidents and UFOs, a secret history from FDR to Obama, and our special guest tonight, Larry Holcombre, who will be talking about his book, The Presidents and UFOs, a secret history from FDR to Obama. What do the presidents know? What does each president from FDR to Obama know about UFOs? Extraterrestrial life. Well, that will be tonight at 8:15 p.m. But now, without further ado, I present to you the one and the only, the madman, Mario. Welcome to the MnRTV show.
Yes, it's good to be back. Another week. Where else can we go than to be right here, looking at this show, the greatest show in the world, because we're here to combat the new world order, right there.
That's right. And tonight, we're going to be talking with author, researcher Larry Holcombre and the UFOs from FDR to Obama. What are your thoughts on this subject tonight?
Well, I guarantee you that they know something out there. Someone out there, they know. It's not a big secret anymore. That's for sure. But that's what we're going to do in about roughly half an hour-ish or so. So you got to stay tuned, right there?
Yes, that's right. So tonight we've got a heck of a show, and I think we should begin with the show tonight. The show's been brought to you by the Montreal Anti-Illuminati Task Force. And let's get going and start the show, because tonight we've got a lot of information, as usual.
Yes, so now let's get cracking. I am Mario, in case you don't know. It's no big problem. If you're new to the show, you know, it's great to have you aboard so that you can see us and hear us and see what we're all about. But now I'm going to be switching on over to show you exactly what you need to know and the instructions for the show. Right there, Robert?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So let's hit the instruction button right about now.
All right, so these right here is the MnR Productions Mariolaur.blogspot.ca. This is our wonderful introductions for all you newbies out there who don't know what you got to do. These is on every conspiracy talk on our walls. It's out there. Or you can go on last week's show and find in the description. I always put up the blog. So if you don't see these, it's simple. You just refresh. And on the side there, not for tonight, but on when we don't do a show live, you could always go and check on the side there. There's always the old history, our history, since we started in 2006. We've been around for 10 years. And here's Chitango for you people out there to interact with us and ask us questions and feel free to interact. And now we're going to go to the pictures of the week, which are on both Conspiracy Talk on Google Plus and on Facebook. Right? So now here's the picture of the weeks. The pictures.
I say what needs to be said, not what you want to hear. Your view on this?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing, and why we're doing this wonderful show is because we tell people what needs to be said and not what you want to hear, because what you don't want to hear, that's what CNN is there for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're not here to sugarcoat the reality of what's going on. Not at all.
So whether you like it or not, we're still going to do a show, and we're still going to tell you what needs to be said. Exactly. Suivant. Next. I love these one.
We're all being played like in a cosmic chess match. Corporations, government, media, military, police, and you. It's like a chess match, except it's something bigger, like a cosmic chess match between good and evil.
Yes, God and Satan.
Christ. And we're caught in the middle of it.
Yes, this is us. We're the pawns. But you know what? All of these from all here indirectly it's the corporations that are controlling all of these in some certain way with the money and the pharmacies and big pharma, and
The
they
media,
control, yes, they
Hollywood.
control all these, the corporations. So but we gotta love everybody. Everybody needs love. That's what we're here for, to show some love.
From Dr.
Sweet,
Love, yes.
suivant next.
Okay, let me just hook up right here. Do you know why the Rockefeller Foundation funded women's lib? It enabled them to tax the women, the other half of population. It also got women out of their homes, placing the kids in school where they could be indoctrinated at an earlier age. What? You thought they were actually cared about women's rights? Right. And that we know that's the Rockefellers who had planned this in the 1930s. And look where we are now. Look how society is now. But it's all been planned to a T, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, that's what happens when everybody out there wants their rights. The abuse of their rights. That's the problem out there. That's the problem. Everybody abuses of their rights, and at the end, the Rockefellers, they're enjoying the show. Suivant next.
You must unlearn what you have been programmed to believe since birth. That software no longer serves you. If you want to live in a world where all things are possible, of course you've been pre-programmed. It's how can I say? Put it this way: everything that you know, it's a lie. Everything that you do is a lie. Continue, Mario.
Yeah, when you watch television, the news out there, it's all lies. It's a big illusion. That's what it is out there. It's a huge, big illusion. So that's what people that need to wake up, the sheeples. Right there, Robbie?
That's right. Exactly.
That's why you gotta share this show and like and comment, but most of all share. Share.
Everywhere that you guys can find it. Definitely. You've been lied about. Another one. You've been lied about everything. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot unlearn the many lies they've been taught to believe. Exactly. And there is the masters of puppets that you can't see, the hidden strings that pull us.
And we're slaves.
Exactly. We're stuck in the matrix.
To a dollar. To a dollar that's made out of thin air. There's no silver backing it. Suivant next.
And we're trying to break out of the matrix. Speaking of breaking out, Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Indeed, we do. That is the basis of the New World Order. They have the evil powers, the evil demons, the evil aliens coming after us, all in deception, lies, and more deception. And they are trying to control us in this matrix that we're living in here. But through Christ, you can break through the matrix.
That's why it's very, very, very important to read the instructions, the Bible itself. But we're not going to get into that, because then people, they run when we talk the Bible, unfortunately. So we don't want that. Please stick around, people. We got a great show coming up ahead. Right now, this is another one I love.
Ever wonder why a drawing of a heart doesn't look like an actual human heart? The heart symbol we use today came from the idea of two human hearts being fused together as one, forming the iconic heart-shaped symbol we know as love. But do not forget, love, folks, is a powerful force in the universe.
They can defeat single-handedly hatred. Why do we hate? Why do humans hate? There's no such reason for us to be hating out there.
I think it's because of the indoctrination that we have to hate everything that's different from us. Anything that's different, that looks different, smells different, acts different. It's like right away we have to hate. I mean, when we think of it, we're a pretty volatile society here on the planet Earth. Very.
Suivant, next.
The biggest secret in the world is that one bank has many heads. The same bank has control over 140 mega corporations, which controls over 43,000 multinational corporations, therefore controlling our income and how much we pay for everything. Food, energy, water, rent, mortgage, healthcare, cable, phone, travel, hotel, medicine, and everything else. They also own our war machine and most of the big oil. Exactly. Exactly.
But then
We
again,
don't.
corporations, you see corporations right there.
Yeah, I should call it the United States of corporations.
But it
That's
is
what
a
it is.
corporation, the states. Suivant, next. This one I like, you like.
Yes, when the devil knows what you like and you fall for it. And you do fall for it.
Yeah, anything for the flesh, you know, to
Exactly.
please the flesh.
Exactly. And here the devil is pleasing the girl with the flesh, and it's just, it is what it is. And that's temptation right there. So do not fall for it, but try
You
not
know,
to as much as possible.
seems like whenever we please our flesh, that's what happens. Because we're at war against our flesh.
And I'm willing to think that our bodies, it's just a bodysuit that we're using here.
It is.
It's a bodysuit that we're using here in the Matrix, right here. I mean, it's not us. It's more than us. Our soul is what makes us, not this body that you see here.
Well, it's kind of like a bottle. You know, you got our soul that's inside the body. I mean, inside the bottle. It's the same thing with the soul and the body. It's the same thing with the water. When you put water inside the bottle, you know, it's like the spirit. It's like the soul or the soul inside a bottle. You get what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
get the hypotheses, you know. And when there's no more water inside or liquid inside the bottle, well, the bottle is empty. Same thing like us. If there's no soul inside us, well, it's empty. And guess what comes in after?
Mm-hmm.
The demons. Suivant, next. This one.
If the theory of evolution were true, there are millions of these, the monkey, and millions of men. So where are the millions of these, the in-between species? Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe someone can answer it.
Yeah, because they always say that the Bible people don't have the answer for everything, which we do.
But it's just very, very odd, that that's been happening. Where are they, I mean, there's millions of monkeys and that, I don't believe we came from monkeys.
No. But people need to look at this and study it a little bit better. Suivant, next.
Vince Foster, going to testify against her, suddenly kills himself. Now, I don't know who Vince Foster is exactly, but I'm sure he had some incriminating evidence against her, and he kills himself. I don't believe it. I believe they sent a hit squad to do the job, and they make it look like it's a suicide or something, or kills himself, or unless it was MK Ultra and they sent some kind of signal to kill himself. But he was done in, just like people who research UFOs get in contact with people that do UFOs and are suddenly killed. It's the same thing, because Hillary wants to be and will be the next president of the United States. So says the builder.
Yes, that's what they're saying, because that's what they said. It's been leaked out that Hillary is going to be the next president of the United States of America. But we'll see. But this is the excuse, a poor excuse. Sudden kills himself. That's just a poor excuse. He didn't kill himself. Oh, that's sad. Whenever
Very
you say the
sad.
truth, whenever you say the truth, that's what they use. So we've on next.
The U.S. dropped 23,000 bombs in 2015. These 7 countries are currently the targets of American airstrikes: Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia. All these, and I saw the numbers right there. The USA has been at war for 151 years. $3 trillion have been spent bombing third world nations, and another $3 trillion has been lost by the Pentagon. Just imagine how great America would be if the money has been spent on building homes, schools, and universities. And let me interject also that the money that's been missing, there was some money that's been missing. I think it was a $3 trillion was discovered on September 10, 2001, and Donald Rumsfeld said it. And what happens the next day, September 11th? So people tend to forget. But I've got some undisclosed sources that the money being spent is on black budget projects, on UFOs and building underground facilities and technologies that we don't know about. That's where all this money goes.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not going to the poor people out there, the people
Certainly it's
struggling.
not.
So that's the pictures of the week that are both found on Conspiracy Talk on Facebook and on
Google Plus.
Los, and it's right here. If people want to see our show in the future, just come here, hit the, and you'll get our wonderful blog. And yeah, the group is growing very fast, very quickly. It's just getting bigger by the second. Hey there, Paula. Hey there, all you people watching out there.
Yeah, exactly. And the newbies that are coming, the new people that are coming on a worldwide transmission. It's great to have you guys on the show. Welcome to the MnRTV Live Show. If it's the first time you're seeing us, we've been around doing shows since 2012. And before that, we used to do videos. So we've been around for quite a long time.
Yes. So now we're going to get ready and do the news of the week. Right there?
And yeah.
All right.
Okay. Failed alternative media infiltrator Glenn Beck's broadcast suspended from Sirius XM after condoning death threats against Trump. Beck's empire crumbles further along with anything that is left of his public image after a series of epic failures. Sirius XM has decided to suspend the Glenn Beck show for at least 1 week and may remove the show entirely from its lineup after Glenn Beck recently became radicalized against the GOP presidential nominee Donald J. Trump, condoning his death on air. Wow. The following statement was issued by the network. I didn't know this. Sirius XM encourages a diversity of disclosure and opinion on our talk programs. However, comments recently made by guests on the independent producer Glenn Beck program Now Judgment may be reasonably construed by some to have been advocating harm against an individual currently running for office, which we cannot and will not condone, and we will not condone. For that reason, we have suspended the Glenn Beck program from our Patriot channel for the coming week, and we are evaluating its place in our lineup forward. Sirius XM is committed to spirited, robust, yet responsible political conversation and believes this action reflects those values. Glenn Beck is a failed alternative media infiltrator that was already called out by IntelHub Shepherd Annabellas last week on the IntelHub. On the podcast, about 42 minutes into it, Annabelle's said that Beck is a fake wannabe that only wishes that he was alternative media. Annabelle said that Beck is losing millions of dollars a year to push propaganda for the mainstream and sponsors. Well, you know, it's just, I think you shouldn't call anybody's death, especially a presidential candidate, whether you go for them or not. It's the wrong way of doing it, and it pushes more violence. And, you know, it just takes one nut, and there goes everything. It's not good.
And especially us people out, you know, us, we got to be peaceful. We're not in for fighting. You know, we don't want to take out anybody. You know, it's all about love, and we got to love even the government. Believe it or not, it's hard to say, but it's true. We got to love everybody because love takes care of everything, right?
Exactly. So next.
Suivant next. Now this one, the next one, we're not going to read all of it unless if you really want to, but just the title.
No.
I have a comment to say about this.
Facebook and Microsoft are building an undersea cable to move massive amounts of data much faster. Well, of course they want to do that because they want to control us and monitor us more. So they want the information much faster.
But there's something. But you know what? There was a theory. There was a theory about satellites that they don't exist. Well, here's the proof that satellites don't exist. Why the hell would they be putting this underneath water, underneath the Atlantic Ocean? You know, don't you ever wonder about that? Look, you see, it says here, under the Atlantic Ocean. Why don't you have satellites then? Is it true that there's no such thing as satellites?
Well,
someone posted that up on the conspiracy talk.
Well, it's the same thing with the flat earth and all this stuff, you know. I mean, we'd have to take a ship and go into space. And, you know, even that, you know, can we trust it? Can we even go into a ship, you know? I mean, but now we're not talking about the ship, but the thing is, it's that they want to do all this data collection. And why under the sea? Why not in space?
They have satellites. That's what kills me. They have satellites. Why underwater? Just forget it. Forget it. Please, someone in the conspiracy talk, bail me out on this one, because I certainly don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
Suivant next, coming up soon. So, this one, chemtrails.
Yeah, Senator John McCain adds link rival Kelly Ward to chemtrails conspiracy theory. And it's a fairly new article, just a couple of days ago, right there. And we see, after months of largely ignoring his chief Republican primary rival, U.S. Senator John McCain's re-election team has launched an online advertising campaign linked to former state Sen Kelly Ward to chemtrails conspiracy theory. McCain RS is attempting to brand Ward as Chemtrail Kelly because in 2014 she organized a town hall meeting which included the participation of taxpayers paid state environmental staffers to discuss community concerns about chemtrails. The anti-government conspiracy theory speculates airplanes are spraying through visible contrails that streak the skies dangerous chemicals to change the weather for darker motives. Kelly Ward's decision to host a forum regarding a debunked conspiracy theory using Arizona's tax dollar shows her bad judgment. McCain campaign spokeswoman Lorna Romero said, "The fact is that Kelly Ward has often sided with conspiracy theories, proving that she is too dangerous for Arizona families." Well, of course, I mean, they want to make it look like she's a cool, crazy conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat wearer. That's what they want to do. And that's what they're trying to do because they want to cover up the truth. And look at that.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. And I didn't see this video, but I don't know why he says aliens. But before a montage of clips of a wild-eyed Jones talking about chemtrails and aliens. I don't know, but as far as I know, Alex Jones doesn't talk much about aliens.
I wonder why.
I don't know. He leaves that to David Icke. So
he doesn't care.
No.
But chemtrails, they're there. You know what? I haven't seen chemtrails being sprayed since Sunday. You know what? I like to.
I saw some this morning.
Did you?
Or was it? It was either yesterday or this morning. It was yesterday, actually. I saw some in the sky.
All right. Snowden.
Again, Snowden fails to acknowledge that tens of thousands of targeted Americans already on the kill list. Edward Snowden's ongoing operation falters as journalists and others see through the PSYOP. Yes.
Who's on the kill list?
On May 30th, 2016, Edward Snowden tweeted that former CIA Director Michael Hayden verified that there was indeed a kill list. In his newly published book, former CIA Hayden called Snowden naive and narcissistic, and said that he wants to put him on a kill list. On the next page, he said Snowden highlighted the need for a broad cultural shift in terms of transparency and what constitutes consent. And there's the tweet right there. What? Well, if that doesn't qualify for a kill list, that's what Edward Snowden put on May 30th, 2016. While I and many others appreciate what you have revealed to the public, for instance, the information regarding Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group's JTRIG domestic operations in the UK, many of us wonder why you haven't followed suit for the tens of thousands of innocent Americans being victimized in the US by the FBI and NSA via the post 9/11 COINTEL program. Targets of JT Riggs 5D tactics deny, deceive, degrade, disrupt, and destroy have been placed on a soft kill hit list, which employs techniques to allow groups like the JTRIG, FBI, and the NSA to neutralize and kill targets while simultaneously providing for plausible deniability. Do you think we're on the kill list, the MNR?
I'm sure. I'm very sure. But it's okay because we have more people. The more people we have, the better it is. Unfortunately, I'm sure we're on the kill list. Should we fear anything? I don't think so.
No, there's nothing to fear, not at all.
Because we have the great Lord who's watching our back, right?
Exactly. So we don't need that at all to worry about that, because kill list, they just want to, they do what they need to do, but that's it. What they think they could stop us, but even if they kill us, it'll only be it won't really do anything to us because we'll be with the Lord.
Sweep on next. Look at this. Now this one is very top secret there.
That's why we're on a kill list. Turkey encouraged to become CERN member state. Experts have called on Turkey to become a full member of the European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, with aims to observe dimensions and particles that could make up dark matter, a substance that is believed by researchers to make up most of the universe. Speaking to Anadolu Agency AA in Istanbul after a technology conference on Monday, Hakan Kizprotak, the CERN industrial liaison officer for Turkey, said full membership in the Nuclear Research Organization would open doors for Turkish companies focusing on advanced technologies. Said full membership for Turkey, which is currently an associate member of CERN, would also enable the country to see what is in lack of terms of studying space, biomedicine, and nanotechnology. Once Turkish firms, then they will begin to do it. So they want to become part of CERN, and as we know, CERN may have disrupted the world as never seen before, and we're just beginning to uncover that, aren't we?
So let's get this straight. China wants CERN. Turkey wants to be a member. Canada has its own CERN. Snow. What is it called? Snow Lab. What's going on? Everybody wants to be members of CERN. What is that, like the new beast?
Maybe.
There's something up there, but you know, it's very interesting.
Exactly, for sure. Okay.
All right. We can't forget about Diaz Fukushima.
Apocalypse. Here's how you are being poisoned.
Look at that.
Yeah. It's been 5 years since an earthquake with a magnitude of 9.0, the biggest in the nation's recorded history, and one of the 5 most powerful recorded ever around the world, and subsequent tsunami destroyed large parts of the Fukushima nuclear power plant and eventually killing more than 20,000 men, women, and children, displaced over 200,000, and brought untold horror and misery to the many survivors. The Fukushima nuclear disaster on March 11, 2011 resulted in massive radioactive contamination of the Japanese mainland, as well as brought to the forefront the dangers of worldwide nuclear radiation. 5 years later, after effects of the catastrophic event continued to plague the world, making it the greatest environmental disaster of all time. Here are 10 horrifying facts about the ongoing Fukushima nuclear holocaust that will scare you.
But we're not going to get in it because we
No.
haven't got all night. But just to let you know that, you know, nobody has the colognes to talk about Fukushima. But here on the MnRTV Live Show, we're talking about Fukushima. Kind of like what our picture says. We don't care what they say out there, saying, oh, you guys are talking about stuff like this. But that's what we're here for. You know, CNN is some, you know, they're right underneath our feet right there, right? We're stepping on CNN. And that's it. That's the thing. If you want to continue reading it, all you have to do is just pause the video once it gets recorded. But all these links will be in the description once the show has been completed. That's what I normally do once the show is completed. I'm busy putting everything together.
And don't forget at 8:15 p.m., folks, Larry Holcombe, and I have got his book here, a hardcover book, The Presence and the UFOs. He'll be coming up in a few short moments from now. So, folks, get ready for our guest tonight. We're very excited and to have Larry come on our show. Robot Wars 2016, everything you need to know. And there's the robots right there. Oh, they don't look friendly robots. Not at all. Not at all. 13 years after it was part of Channel 5's schedule, Robot Wars is back and returning to home to the BBC. The technological game show's heydays, says Jeremy Clarkson, then Craig Charles preside over both amateur and professionally built machines battling it out in the arena, which avoids hazards, are the most powerful house robots. So what's in store for viewers in 2016? A lot, but also not very much at all. The 6-part series promises a raft of technological advance, says the Daily Telegraph, as well as a new purpose-built fighting arena in Glasgow. State-of-the-art cameras capable of capturing every saw, claw, and flame thrower will allow viewers to feel even closer to the actions than before, says The Guardian. It is remarkable to see how much powerful these robots have become since the series last aired, with battles now staged in an arena that is literally bulletproof, and yet the show is still fundamentally driven by the eccentricity of the brilliant brains behind the machines. And the way I see it, it's the rise of the machines. That's the way I'm starting to think of it.
Well, they're conditioning. They're conditioning the humans out there to say, look, machines are out there. They're going to control the world. They're going to fight against each other, but they won't fight us humans. But I think they will fight us humans at the end, right?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So it's going to be us against the machines, and as I can see, I can see Google becoming alive one day and turning against us, and that's the way Google is, and it's not good. It's becoming self-aware. Okay, now next article.
Hold on now, Robert. And you know what this means? This means something great. Yes.
And then it means our guest. Then we go to break, and then our guest will be coming on. Okay. Pulsating orb UFO that dropped landing pods over Fairbanks, Alaska, may have sent messages in alien Morse code. UFO hunters say. All right, I can't wait to get into this. A UFO believed to have dropped an alien landing pod to the ground in Fairbanks, Alaska, may also send a coded message to unknown recipients using a coded system similar to the Morse code. According to UFO hunters, footage of the bizarre UFO sightings indicate first emerged online on May 13th, soon after the Inquisitor reported speculations among members of the online UFO community that multiple reports from across the country about mysterious glowing orb UFO dropping smaller orbs, suggesting an ongoing stealth alien invasion of Earth. Some members of the UFO community actually expressed concern at the time that the alien race responsible for the alleged landings could be hostile. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. When the weird footage first showed up, weird footage showing a mysterious pulsating orb releasing small orbs mid-air was first uploaded online early in the month. It sparked a lively discussion among UFO enthusiasts. Many agreed that it was yet another example of a series of clips uploaded online recently that appeared to confirm suspicions of the Earth could be under stealth infiltration by aliens planting sleeper cells at various locations. After reviewing the footage earlier this week, some UFO enthusiasts came forward with a new suggestion that the pattern of blinking or pulsating of the lights could be an alien system of communication similar to Morse code, and that the orb may have sent signals to unknown recipients on Earth. This suggestion sparked a new round of speculation that UFOs could be transmitting a coded D-Day message to aliens living among us in disguise. But others have speculated the message may have been a warning to humans. The mysterious sightings was captured on camera by YouTube user Jared A. in Fairbanks, Alaska. Jared reported that the sightings to the Mutual UFO Network MUFON on May 14th. The report is filed in MUFON database as case 76358. The witness, a security officer, told MUFON that he was driving in his patrol car at about 3 a.m. on May 13th when he noticed a strange orb with blinking or pulsating lights floating in the clear pre-dawn sky, according to Open Minds TV. I noticed a blinking light. I thought it was an airplane, the witness told MUFON. When I came around to the other side, the Morris Thompson building heading east, I saw a bright orb shoot straight down while the blinking light I saw was stationary. So that makes you wonder, is this a code for the aliens?
Yeah, it does make you wonder. What are they up to? You know, why do they?
What does the message say? What does the message say?
Maybe they're contacting people that are in the government. That's why we're going to get our guest, and he's going to talk about UFOs in the government, and aliens.
Exactly. Yeah, UFOs and the presidents right here. I have the book right here. If you guys could show it, you know,
yes.
at the beginning of the show. Right here's the book, The Presidents and UFOs: Secret History from FDR to Obama. Larry Holcombe will be coming on the show tonight to be talking about his book and his great information. So I think it's time for Trish to come on because I keep hearing her. So that will be for that now, but
yes.
we will be back after a short break.
So don't go anywhere, people, because there's a lot of info for you out there to know about UFOs. It's always fascinating and intriguing. But anyhow, here she is. Here's Trish.
Biography. I was born on May 25th, 1943, smack in the middle of WWII. My first 8 years were spent with my family in a bungalow on Williamsburg Road in Sandston, VA, near the Richmond Army Air Base, a training base for P-47 pilots. My earliest memories are of life in a small town that was really a functioning part of the military, as many families in the community rented rooms for servicemen and their wives stationed at the air base. Post-WWII was a simple and lovely time in Sandston, a Norman Rockwell small town of tree-lined streets with white frame houses. A new car or someone getting a television created a wave of excitement, but it was also a time when great change was just beginning to occur. It is truly fascinating to look back as witnesses to the extraordinary changes that have taken place from that simple time to the present, and it is part of who I am today. From the very beginning of my education, reading and comprehending what I had read seemed to come easily, and literature was always a passion. I also had the ability to make up tall tales on the fly and could enchant my friends by the hour with my make-believe yarns. When I was in the 3rd grade, one of these friends told our teacher about my ability with off-the-cuff storytelling. She was intrigued and invited me to the front of the class to demonstrate this alleged gift, to spin a yarn. I remember how she, along with the rest of the class, sat seemingly mesmerized as I rambled on with some tall tale of high adventure. My mother was especially excited when the teacher called that night to tell her about this unusual gift that I seemed to possess. She was excited because at that early age I had shown an aptitude for exactly nothing except reading and eating. Unfortunately, reading and comprehension proved to be one of my few early academic accomplishments. The simple truth is that if something didn't interest me, I had little time for it. and that included much of what exasperated teachers were trying to pound into my head. After graduating from high school, I had a brief stint in the Army before enrolling in the Old Richmond Professional Institute, now Virginia Commonwealth University, majoring in journalism. Unfortunately, my college career would be cut short at 2 years as my financial situation made full-time work a necessity. For the next 40 years, I worked in construction-related sales and marketing. In 1979, I started my own manufacturer's rep agency that I ran until 1999 when I closed it to become the military sales manager for a Chicago-based company. In 2006, I decided to take early retirement and fulfill my passion to write. My first novel, The Great River Disclosure, was published by Brandalane Publishers in July 2009. My second novel, Satan's Angel, is complete but unpublished, and a third in the Disclosure trilogy is partially complete. All are thrillers with much of the action taking place around and on the Chesapeake Bay that I know so well. In addition, my extensive travel with military sales has given me an in-depth knowledge of many areas around our great and beautiful country. Hopefully this knowledge will allow me to develop accurate plot scenes from many areas, expanding the depth of my plot and characters. My introduction to the world of ufology came in the late 1950s after reading Major Donald K. Who's Flying Saucers Are Real and Flying Saucers from Outer Space, found in my high school library. These books started a 50-plus-year study and application into mainstream research of the most important story in the history of mankind. After taking early retirement in 2006, I started work on The Great River Disclosure, a novel in the thriller venue, based on his theories of the UFO phenomenon derived from my 50-plus years of study. The idea was to write a novel that would appeal to a large segment of people, many of whom would not read a UFO-related work of nonfiction, and perhaps spark a desire with skeptics to take a closer look at the UFO phenomenon. I continue to believe that Roswell, and the bungling of crash retrieval events, was the defining moment in the development of the United States policy towards the UFO issue. My writing and speaking efforts now center on bringing light to bear on media indifference to the UFO issue, and the continued United States denial and cover-up of UFO issues while other countries around the world open their files and acknowledge the existence of UFOs. In my talks, I relate my own 1995 UFO encounter, as well as stories told to me by others at signing and speaking engagements. My first nonfiction work, UFOs, Presidents and the UFO Enigma, is well underway. I have been married to the same lovely lady for 42 years. Alice and I, along with our 2 boys, moved from Richmond, Virginia to the northern neck of Virginia in 1989. Our oldest son, daughter-in-law, 5 granddaughters and grandson live in New Braunfels, Texas, just north of San Antonio. Our youngest son, daughter-in-law and grandson live near Reedville, Virginia.
Thank you very much there, Trish. Always well said, always well spoken, always on fire.
All right, so that's it. We're going to be getting our guests in a few moments right here. And again, here's the book right here that I've got, The Presidents and UFOs, A Secret History from FDR to Obama, right here. So we're going to be getting our guest. I'm going to be contacting him very soon. All right, Mario, are you going to be ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's get things cracking. So like that
All
we
right.
can, you know, and get all the information of what our guest knows, because he does know very much. Right there?
That's right.
All right. So
Hold on.
let's see it now. Let's see now what's happening on our wonderful world of Chitango. You know, I mean, there's so much happening out there. You know, technology has been advancing. It advances by the minute. Whenever we look out there, technology just keeps growing on us. And so there's all these...
Hello, Larry. Welcome to the MnRTV Live Show. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm just fine. How are you?
I'm great. I was just telling my viewers here that I've got your book and I'm reading it, the hardcover book of The Presidents and UFOs, A Secret History from FDR to Obama, and it's a wonderful book. I couldn't put it down.
Well, that's very flattering.
Exactly. So we're able to tell our viewers before beginning exactly who you are and a brief introduction to yourself.
Well, I've been involved in UFO research since, I suppose, 1960. After reading Major Donald Kehoe's books, Flying Saucers for Motor Space and Flying Saucers for Real, and watching Kehoe on the Armstrong Circle Theater when his sound was cut off, when he deviated from the script that the Air Force brought in to censor the program. In essence, is what they did, and I believe from that time on there was an Air Force cover-up. So I became convinced of that, and as I grew older, and the flying saucer, as it was called then, or the UFO question, never left me. I studied it. I did research on it, and quietly at that time, because the government, the Air Force, the military had really started what I consider to be a very great, substantial debunking program on flying saucers and UFOs. And when I took early retirement in 2006, I wrote a novel I wanted to write, and I wrote a novel, and the novel, The Great River Disclosure, was based on my background knowledge of the Air Force and the Air Force cover-up, which included the famous estimate of the situation, the Robertson panel of 1953, Air Force Special Report 14, and then in the end, the Colorado Project, which became known as the Condon Report, which ended the Air Force's, as far as the public was concerned, the Air Force's investigation into UFOs or flying saucers. As we know now, that was a pure farce. That the Air Force continues to be very involved in the UFO issue, as does the Navy, probably even more so than the Air Force. And the Bolender memo that came out after the Air Force closed Project Blue Book, in essence stated that all UFO reports that concern national security would be reported as they always had been. JNAP, through JNAP 146, I believe it was, and Joint Air Force Navy publication, and so they've been very involved with it, but they, of course, say that they're not involved with it at all. So after writing this novel, I was invited to Roswell, New Mexico in 2011 to speak, a lecture, and to be an author because of this book, this novel that I'd written that they liked, seemed to like a great deal. I've been invited back every year since. I'll be back there this year in 2016. And I contacted, in doing research for the book, I found a TV documentary that I was quite, I found unique or very unique. That's an overused word. Things are not unique. They either are unique or they're not unique. You can't be a little unique. You can't be a little pregnant. But anyway, this documentary was absolutely unique because it obviously had the support of the government. We know now the Nixon administration, and Rod Serling was the narrator. Burgess Meredith was in it. Jose Farrar was in it. Jacques Vallée was in it. And the whole documentary ended up with a hypothesis that flying saucers were in fact extraterrestrial. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the government would allow film crews to come inside of the Pentagon and film the former Colonel William Colvin, the former head of Air Force Public Relations, to walk the halls of the Pentagon and discuss the famous estimate of the situation. And had General Hoyt Vandenberg batted it down because their estimate, and this was 1949, 1950, their estimate was the only conclusion we can come to is that we're dealing with an extraterrestrial presence. So anyway, the idea of the book was born. I got an agent in New York. I gave him the background on the book, the Nixon administration, the writer of the book, the writer of the documentary was Robert Emenager, who was fraternity brother of H.R. Bob Holloman, Nixon's chief of staff. I got to know Bob Holloman well. He told me a lot of the background story of making the documentary, how they would be given 600 feet of 16 millimeter movie film of a UFO actually landing at Holloman Air Force Base to use as the explosive finish. The background, very quickly, Robert, the background was the Nixon administration was very, very powerful in its first term. And they had made openings to China, which had been a closed country, to talk with the Russians and so on and so forth. Nixon is looked on by many as a villain now, but he had great power. And he thought, and I think being prodded by his good friend Jackie Gleason, if he could make a documentary stating that, showing that we were being visited by an extraterrestrial president, he would go down in history as a historic president. Yes. And that's how it all came about until Watergate exploded and the whole thing came to an end. The documentary, however, was made, but with modifications.
So do you think, had Watergate not happened, what exactly do you think Nixon would have said or disclosed?
I think if Watergate had not happened, I think the documentary probably would have been given the 600 feet of 16 millimeter film. They were taken, Bob Emenager and his partner's film producer, Alan Sandler, were taken to Norton Air Force Base. And I'm condensing this in great detail, but they were taken to Norton Air Force Base and taken into a clean room, which means there was no listening devices whatsoever. And the head of Air Force Films, Paul Shartle, said, "We'll give you this film." Well, when Watergate came about and reared its ugly head, the Nixon administration did an about turn and said, you know, this could hurt us far more than it could help us in our re-election. And so Emenager was told he would not be given that film, that actual footage. But he could say in the future segment, this is what may happen in the future or has already happened. And that's what Rod Serling did in this documentary. And they showed a dramatization of a UFO landing at Holcombe Air Force Base. It's an amazing documentary. It really is, and the background is even more amazing. And I go into that in my book.
Yes, you certainly do. I want to ask you a question. What do you think Eisenhower knew? Was there actually a pact with aliens? Did he actually meet these extraterrestrials, or is it just speculation?
There are two events, Robert, that occurred.
Yes.
That I know of for sure that occurred during the Eisenhower administration. The first event took place in 1954 when he was vacationing in Palm Springs with his wife Mamie, and I think probably Mamie's mother was with him. And at some point, Eisenhower played golf with Ben Hogan, with some luminaries of the movie industry and what have you. And James Haggerty, Eisenhower's press secretary, came before the reporters and said the president has chipped a tooth, and he will be taken to a dentist for some emergency dental work, and won't be seen until tomorrow. Well, that was at 8 o'clock that night. The next morning, he was seen in church with Mamie, and they hosted a party that evening. I don't buy that story. And let me say that I am an absolute believer that we are being visited by an extraterrestrial presence, and I believe we've recovered extraterrestrial craft, probes. I think they are, and probably some sort of humanoid bodies that are probably engineered beings, not the real beings, but they're visitors, but they are engineered beings. Getting off the subject, I think that that to say that Eisenhower was out of the public view from 8 o'clock that night until 9 o'clock the next morning when he went to church. Well, my God, you don't have television cameras in the president's bedroom, so you can view him at all hours of the day. So that's a very, very short period of time. Now, in 1955, he went on a hunting trip, a bird hunting trip to Georgia. At an estate that, if my memory serves me correctly, was owned by his Secretary of the Treasury. And they hunted birds late that evening until dark. And the next day, Haggerty came out to the reporters and said, well, the president has come down with the sniffles. So he'll be out of the public view for a couple of days. He'll be sitting around and, I don't know, drinking hot toddies with Mamie and Mamie's mother and playing Scrabble, who knows. But in fact, we have a great deal of evidence that he flew to Holcombe Air Force Base, landed at Holcombe Air Force Base, and viewed either an extraterrestrial vehicle or that was flown by aliens, that was flown by our own people, that was recovered, flown by our own people, or that was back engineered. Now, there are people that say that Eisenhower got out of the Columbine and walked over to the spacecraft and went into it and had a 45-minute conference. I don't buy that for a minute. Again, I'm a skeptic in a lot of these areas because they could have snapped the door shut and taken the president off to, goodness knows where. And I don't think the Secret Service would have let him do that. Maybe they sent Vice President Nixon over there, but I don't think they would have sent the President of the United States over there. Secondly, If you're dealing with an alien presence that's 1,000, 100,000, or a million years more advanced, how do you make a treaty with them? I mean, how do you could sign your name on a document, but what does it mean? How do you make it stand up if these people are that far advanced from us? What does a treaty mean to them?
Right.
So I think that he was at Holcombe. I think that he viewed an extraterrestrial vehicle of some sort, and he may have met extraterrestrials. But I think that's, in my opinion, that's as far as the story goes. I have a tape recording or a CD that was given me by a lady that her father was present at Holcombe Air Force Base. He was a wireman, an electrician, and he was stringing wire when Eisenhower's Columbine landed at Holcombe Air Force Base on those dates, and that the plane did not leave the runway. It turned around and stayed on the runway, which in essence closed that runway. It didn't taxi to the tarmac. And he saw what he called objects that were shaped like two pie pans put together. Scared him so much that he was on an electrical pole. He cut out of the pole and came down and ran away from the pole into the electrical shop, and the guys in the shop laughed at him and told him he came down that pole faster than a fireman would come down a pole, and so it became known in the family as a fireman story. But we have three solid witnesses that Eisenhower was at Holcombe Air Force Base in February 1955 when he was supposed to be bird hunting in Georgia.
What are your thoughts on that? Aliens have been taking humans for abductions, and in return, we get technology. Was this done by any of the presidents in your research?
No. In my book, if you've completed it, you know there's one abductions, and I think abductions are extremely important in the entire UFO story. However, it's not my strong suit. My thrust is in what I call flying saucers, in the investigation of those. But I think the abduction question is extremely important. And in writing the book, I thought that a chapter on abduction should have been included. And so I asked my good friend Kathleen Martin, who's head of MUFON abduction investigations, to contribute to that chapter for me, which she did. But I am in no way an authority on the abduction issue. But let me say, I think that it's extremely legitimate, that it does exist, and it's certainly part of the great woven fabric of the UFO or flying saucer story. Flying saucers, I like to refer to them as flying saucers. I'm not a great fan of the term UFO, although that's what my book is titled. But I think that the term UFO is too all-encompassing, and I think that when many of my contemporaries lecture on UFOs, they start out by saying that of all UFO reports, 95% can be explained. It's the 5% that can't be explained. And that's true. I mean, they're very accurate there. But I look at it as the 95 that can be explained become 100% of prosaic observations. And the 5% become 100% of true, what I call flying saucer encounters, be them saucer shaped, cigar shaped, triangular shaped, whatever you have. And I think that when you combine the two, you are diluting the importance of the 5% by including them in this 95%. So I think dealing with 100% prosaic and 100% totally unexplained, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it sure does make sense. Getting on to other subjects, President Kennedy, when he was killed, they said there was many reasons and there's so many theories out there. But in your book, I read about that he knew something about UFOs and was digging into it. Do you think it's possible he was actually killed because of him wanting to know or release UFO information?
That was a very difficult chapter for me to write.
Right.
Because I did not want to get involved in the Kennedy assassination conspiracy. But the fact is, there are facts that we know of that exist that tie Kennedy into the UFO issue. And there are documents that exist that tie him into the UFO issue. Now, what we know for sure is this, that JFK, and I won't go into the background of it, but JFK and Khrushchev both had some experiences with UFOs. Objects that were flying at incredibly high speed and incredibly high altitude that put both nations on alert. As it turned out, they disappeared over the Western Hemisphere. We realized they were not Russian or Soviet. The Soviets realized they weren't ours, and this part is speculation that Kennedy and Khrushchev discussed this, and the fact that they wanted to share knowledge because it had the potential to start an atomic war or war between the two countries. So Kennedy told his the head of the CIA, which at that time was Allen Dulles, I think it was still Allen Dulles at that time, that he wanted all UFO related documents that the United States had turned over to the Soviet Union. And he wrote a letter to the director of NASA and said that he wanted all of NASA's space secrets to be disclosed to the Soviets. Now, we have undocumented or documents that have not been authenticated, but are in the hands of Dr. Robert Wood, who was former executive with McDonnell Douglas Aircraft, and worked on UFO issues with McDonnell Douglas for the same simple reason that McDonnell Douglas told him, if there's anything to this UFO issue, we want to know what it's all about, and especially their propulsion systems, before our chief rival, Lockheed gets their hands on them, Kelly Johnson and Lockheed. So when Bob Wood retired from McDonnell Douglas, he had become very enamored with the UFO subject, and he decided that his niche would be to take leaked documents and attempt to authenticate them, doing forensic testing on them, what have you. These are documents now, Robert, that were not released under the Freedom of Information Act, not under FOIA, but these were documents that had been gathered from other sources. One group of documents is called the Byrne Memo. And the Byrne Memo states, is from the director of CIA to certain members of Majestic 12, which we haven't talked about, but Majestic 12 was supposed to have been a group set up by Harry Truman, 6 high-level scientists and 6 high-level military people, including Nathan Twining and Dr. Vannevar Bush and 10 others. And so this was the Majestic 12 documents. I believe they exist. I believe Majestic 12 existed. But the Byrne Memo was from the director of CIA to 7 members, not all of the members of Majestic 12, but to 7 members, and said, and I can't quote I've got it here, but I won't read it verbatim. But in essence, it said, Lancer has made requests from us concerning the UFO question or what have you, that we cannot allow. Lancer was JFK's code name. There were 8 other sheets to this document that was written later, that came along later. The last document said that if Washington, meaning the administration, continues on the course that it's going, and I'm not, again, giving this text verbatim, but if Washington continues, meaning the administration continues as they're going, then we have no alternative than for the operation to become wet. Wet is very chilling because it's a code word that was first used by the Soviets, the Soviet KGB, meaning assassination. So you have this document, which Dr. Bob Wood, on his website, along with his son Ryan Wood, gives his highest level of authenticity to it. And I must say that it is an original document, original copy, so they could test they could forensically test the ink, the paper, and what have you, where you have a lot of documents that are photocopies, so you don't have that option. Now, let me say here, I am not nearly as convinced as Dr. Bob Wood is. And Dr. Bob Wood has been awfully good to me in sending me a host of documents for use in my book. And I admire him greatly for the work he's done. I'm not as convinced as he is that the Byrne Memo, which the reason it's called the Byrne Memo, it was supposed to have been burned and someone pulled it out of the fire, wherever it was, in the basement of the CIA headquarters or wherever. But the document exists, and I could not write the chapter on Kennedy without including reference to this document. Also, Kennedy was very close to Dr. Donald Menzel, who was a great UFO debunker, but was also listed as part of the original Majestic 12. So he could have been a debunking part of the Majestic 12 group. And I think that's very likely. He was close friends, Kennedy was close friends with Arthur Lundahl, who was a great photo interpretation guru in Washington and worked for the CIA and started the Photo Interpretation Institute, which was, he was in charge of reviewing the photos from the Cuban Missile Crisis, and became very close to Kennedy and was a staunch believer that UFOs were extraterrestrial, as was Kelly Johnson of Lockheed Skunk Works. So we have all of these people, including the very, very shady James Jesus Angleton, who was deputy director of the CIA in charge of counterintelligence. And I know a lot of people here in Eastern Virginia that work for the CIA, and they never heard of James Angleton. However, he had an open door to the director's office of the CIA for 20 years. And as director of counterintelligence, if the CIA carried out assassinations, Angleton would have been in charge. And if Kennedy was assassinated by the CIA, and it didn't, and let me say here, I take no pleasure in thinking that my government was involved in the assassination of a president of the United States. But if it was, James Jesus Angleton was probably the only person on this planet that was shrewd enough to pull off such an operation and have it covered up as long as it has been. So that is the Kennedy chapter. I list those facts. I don't draw conclusions. I'd say to the reader, here are the facts. You can do your own research and come up to your own conclusions. If you think the dots are connectable, then that's up to you.
One of my viewers has a question about Kennedy. Was Kennedy involved with the Jason Society?
With the what society?
The Jason Society.
I must plead ignorance on that. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, it's Jason Society. It's like some kind of, like, I believe, extraterrestrial cover-up or something that research UFOs and stuff like this.
No, I think Kennedy came into and touched on is the Truman administration was knee-deep in flying saucers. I mean, flying saucers were making headlines in newspapers across the country in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Truman was president when some of the greatest UFO flaps or flying saucer flaps ever occurred, including the Great Washington Merry-Go-Round that happened in July of 1947, 2 weekends in July of 1947, when flying saucers overflew the restricted airspace at the Capitol and the White House, and jets were scrambled. So Truman, in setting up the Majestic 12 group, made it clear that he wanted the White House to be in total control of all UFO or flying saucer data, and it would be strictly president. Eisenhower came into office, and great money was being spent on this subject. The intelligence community became deeply involved in it. The military-industrial complex became deeply involved in it, and the power of the presidency was slowly wrenched away from the executive branch, the president, and into the hands of the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex. And I think that Eisenhower referred to this when in his final speech to the nation, when he was saying, in essence, beware of the growing influence of the military-industrial complex. I've gotten off the subject. What was the point of the question?
What exactly Kennedy knew? It's okay.
I think that Kennedy knew less than Eisenhower, but he knew enough to know that we had secrets that were being concealed in the deepest, darkest part of the intelligence community, and he wanted those secrets revealed. I think as other presidents went along, with the exception of Richard Nixon, he's the exception to the rule. I think presidents knew less and less and less because the people that controlled, if you go back to the original Majestic 12 group, which I doubt they're called that any longer, they probably operate under a new name, and it's probably a lot more than 12 people. It may be 100 people that really are in the know, but they control what the government knows about UFOs or flying saucers or an extraterrestrial presence, and the presidents are not considered, depending upon who they are, not considered automatically to be in the loop of knowledge. I think that most modern presidents know very little of the subject. I think it's kept from them.
Another president that used to always say, if we got invaded by the world, we'd all come together. That was Ronald Reagan in the 80s. What are your thoughts on Ronald Reagan? Did he know enough?
I think Reagan probably was briefed more than most presidents because I think he was looked on favorably by the intelligence community. And I think he was briefed certainly more than Jimmy Carter was briefed, more than Bill Clinton was briefed, more than Jerry Ford was briefed. All of these wanted to get their hands on UFO information. But I think that it is from my research, I think that Reagan, who had two UFO experiences, one seeing a UFO sitting on the ground blocking the road when he and Nancy were going to a cocktail party. And this was verified by other people that were at the cocktail party that said that when Nancy and Ronald Reagan showed up, they were shaken up. One was Steve Allen, not known to be a flaky individual. Another was Lucille Ball, and said that they were very shaken by this. The second incident, or the one probably prior to that, was when Reagan was running for governor of California and spotted a UFO from the private jet he was flying in. And he saw it and went forward and told the pilot to look at this object and to try to chase it. And the pilot did, until the object all of a sudden took off at a 45-degree angle at fantastic speed. The pilot was asked in later years if he thought that President Reagan really believed in UFOs, and his comment was, "And I saw in that plane, how could he not?" So, yeah, I think that Reagan was probably brief more than the others, and I think that he had a very deep interest in the subject.
How can I say this? The presidents, they only know, they don't even have a need to know basis of what's going on in the UFO community, and it seems to be less and less. Is there like a certain clearance that are above presidents that know more UFO information than presidents? Like, is there a certain level that's beyond the president?
The intelligence community is very complex. Most every fighter pilot has a top secret clearance, which really is not that much of a big deal. It's when you have a top secret clearance and you move above that and you move into areas that are whether they're involving UFOs or they're involving nuclear warfare, whatever, they have code word. For instance, you may have top secret cosmic, top secret, I don't know.
Cosmic clearance.
Come up with a word, but these are of various levels, and sometimes the levels stack on top of other levels, so that you could have two people working in government in offices side by side, working on the same project, but one person would have no idea of what the other person is working on, and they're not supposed to discuss it. So they could be working on the same thing in a different way, and neither one of them know what the other knows. That's called compartmentalization, and that's the way security works. And let me add this, Robert.
Yeah.
The people come to me and say, the government can't keep secrets. It's to say that the government could keep a secret for 70 years about extraterrestrials and crashes at Roswell and all, and I say that's total baloney. The secrets the government can't keep are political secrets, where you have two political parties, one fighting the other one all the time. They're the secrets that can't be kept. Who's sleeping with who? Who's doing this? Who's getting donations from some source that they shouldn't be getting donations from? Those secrets can't be kept. But when you get into the world of military projects and the national security, our government is very well adept at keeping those secrets, as are the high-level people in the military-industrial complex, Raytheon, TRW Systems, Lockheed Martin, the list goes on and on. At the highest levels, these people know how to keep secrets probably better than the CIA. For one reason, they don't want their competition to find out about them. But so all you have to do is think about in the Second World War. Prior to the Second World War, we were working on the atomic bomb. There were 60,000 people working on the atomic bomb. There was a whole city built in outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. A power station was built that could supply 10% of the power to the entire United States, all done in total secrecy. The stealth fighter and the stealth bomber were built in secrecy, and we didn't know about it for 20 years. So to say that we can't keep those type of secrets is ridiculous. And all sorts of things come into it. Intelligence, counterintelligence, disinformation, the government. And there's been a lot of leaks, but the government just denies it. And somebody seems trustworthy, then the government ridicules and will put out the word that they're drunks, they're, a lot of bad things. So our government has done in the area of flying saucers, UFOs, and extraterrestrials. There is a mountain of evidence that our government has done some very, very bad things. And that's one reason that I don't think that we'll see disclosure, not from the government, not unless it's forced on them.
Yeah, in your book, I read something about Jackie Gleason witnessing UFOs, like he went somewhere. Is there any validity to this, that he saw something and he came back and for weeks he wouldn't eat? He was very upset. He would barely eat and he wasn't himself.
Well, I guess I would say that I put that in my questionable basket, but I put it in the book because it's there, and because his ex-wife, Beverly McKittrick Gleason, I think it was going to write a book on Jackie Gleason's life, and this was included in it, that he came home. We know what we know for a fact, and I like to state these things in the book is fact for the people, and really the book is aimed at people that work in ufology, know a great deal of this stuff. What I wanted to aim this book at or toward were people that were interested in the subject, but that didn't have a real good knowledge of it, that all they knew about were the nut fringe on either side of the subject, and not the mainline research that had been done by so many prominent scientists. But anyway, as far as Gleason goes, Gleason had a tremendous interest in UFOs and ufology. When he passed away, his wife gave, I think, something like 1,600 volumes of books he had on UFOs and the paranormal to the University of Miami Library. Now, Gleason believed that the government was concealing UFO or extraterrestrial information, and he was incensed by this, that he couldn't understand why the government wouldn't release it. He was also good friends with Richard Nixon, and he and Nixon played golf together, had some drinks together, and were pretty good friends. So you got to believe that if you or I or anybody that was deeply involved in the UFO issue, or the flying saucer issue, had a close personal relationship with the President of the United States, you'd be bending that person's ear to come out with the truth. And I think that's what Gleason did. And I think that Nixon also believed knew the phenomenon was real. After all, he'd been vice president under Eisenhower for 8 years. So I think he had a good background knowledge of the subject. And I think that with Gleason beating on his ear and Nixon's desire to be a historic president, I think that he was on the verge of making disclosure and making disclosure through this documentary we talked about. Did Nixon whisk Gleason away to Holcombe Air Force Base to see alien bodies, preserved alien bodies, and wrecked craft? That's what his ex-wife said. Is it true or not? We only have her word for it. So the story's out there. She wrote it, and I put it in the book. Again, you have to draw your own conclusions.
Exactly. So getting back to more like modern presidents, in the book you said that Obama doesn't really care for aliens, which I tend to agree with you. However, I saw a video where Obama says he's not allowed to say certain things the aliens don't want him to. He was making kind of a reference to that. So what are your views on Obama and aliens, extraterrestrial and flying saucers?
Robert, when I wrote the book, times change. You write a book of nonfiction about current events, and by the time the book is completed and edited and then published, things can change.
Right.
Now, when I wrote the book, I didn't think Obama really gave a hoot about this extraterrestrial question. However, since then, and since the book has come out, he's made some very interesting comments, just like the one you said, which I think is most telling. When he said, asked by Jimmy Kimmel, I forget what Kimmel asked him, but he said, with a smile on his, sort of a snarky smile on his face, they don't let us talk about that. That could be a very telling statement. That could be a very, very telling statement that he has been briefed to some minute degree just in case something pops up, but told in a diplomatic way, keep your mouth shut on this subject. So, yes, I've changed my opinion somewhat on Obama. Now you got Hillary Clinton, who has said she's coming out, and if she's elected president, she's going to open up all the UFO files. Well, her husband said the same thing. Is she any better than he is? If we have the so-called keepers of the secret, they're not going to be any more inclined to give her this information and than they were any other president. And so I think it's, personally, I think it's political chit-chat. That's the best way I can put it.
Oh, okay, yeah, that truly does make sense. I mean, he can't really say anything of what's going on to begin with. I have a question here from one of my viewers that says, what about all the pilots in the U.S. Air Force that have had sightings over the past 60 years? Are they, and I've told the stories, were they honest or part of the government disinformation program?
Well, we certainly have had a lot of pilots that have come forward and said that they had very, very strange UFO encounters. One is Dr. Milton Torres, who was an F-86 pilot in the 1950s, stationed in England. I talk about Dr. Torres in the book. I think he's a real hero. That in his later years, he came forward and told his story that he was one of two pilots that were on duty. They were on scramble duty at an Air Force base in England when they were told to scramble, that they had a bogey over the English countryside. And Torrey said he took off first and was vectored to this target. And when he said his radar would pick up the target at 15 miles. And he said as soon as he hit 15 miles, he picked up the target. And he said it looked good. He said he's not target printed on his radar scope. He said it was as big as an aircraft carrier. And at one point it was stationary, and at one point it was moving. And they told him to close in on the target in afterburner and to fire all of his rockets at the target. Well, he said, as far as he was concerned, he just signed his death warrant because he knew that something this large, if he fired, he had like 24 rockets, I forget what type of rockets they were. If he fired at it, he'd be vaporized. And just as he got ready to fire, the whatever he was looking at took off at an incredible speed that was estimated to go from 0 to over 10,000 miles an hour in a second or two. So he, in later life, he came forward with the story, and was very emotional about it because he had kept it secret. He came back as a lieutenant and went on back to college, got a master's degree and then a doctor's degree, and taught college and was a range director at Cape Kennedy. So, you know, he wasn't a crackpot. So you got numbers of stories like this. I mean, it's the RB-47 story, which will be coming out in my just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories that have been told by military pilots, competent military pilots that have witnessed UFOs. So, I mean, how do you write these off? These crackpots,
Right.
They're pilots with top secret clearances.
What you must have known about Neil Armstrong, that he went on the moon, and he said that we cannot go to the moon. We've been warned off the moon. What are your views on this?
It's in my, as Stan Friedman would say, it's in my grave. I don't know. Buzz Aldrin has denied it. Neil Armstrong was very, very quiet about the whole thing. Neil Armstrong really just sort of dropped out of the whole picture after he landed on the moon. You had heard very little from him, but bits and pieces. So I don't know. I don't discount the story, but we continue to go back to the moon. How many times did we go to? How many times did we land on the moon? I forget now. It was Apollo 11 through 17, was it? And we stopped going. I don't know.
But
I don't. I've heard the story, but I don't know. Edgar Mitchell, who just passed away, the sixth man to walk on the moon, said the UFO. But he was absolutely sure they existed. So, and he had been told by many people that he knew in NASA and in the military that this was a factual thing. And I mean, he was very strong about it. And I think Dr. Mitchell passed away just a few months ago, if I believe I'm correct.
Okay. Are you still there? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I sort of.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. The thing is, we've been warned not. They've warned us not to go to the moon again. And when Neil Armstrong was there, he saw alien ships, like spaceships or flying saucers, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, they say they were huge.
Right. Yes. Yes. Do you think they were flying saucers, or were they like even like bigger crafts?
Oh, I think they were. If this story is true, I think they were much larger craft. I say again, Robert, I think that any craft that we've recovered here on planet Earth has not been spaceships that have flown across the vastness of space to get here. They are more than likely probes that have been sent down by motherships, if you will. I'm not sure I like that term, but aircraft carrier type vessels that had these probes that came down to see just what the hell the kids here on Earth were doing. They showed up in great numbers when we started experimenting with atomic energy in the New Mexico desert in the 1940s and launching missiles in the Mexico desert in the 1940s and experimenting with very high-powered radar in the 1940s. And there have been scientists, well-known scientists, that have said prior to their death that these objects were so. When we had a test, that we stopped paying attention to them. We knew they were going to be there. They sent reports to Washington. Washington at that time was wrestling with the UFO issue, and they had disbanded Project Sign, who had written the estimate of the situation, which said that they thought they were in a planetary. So they got rid of Project Sign. They initiated Project Grudge, which was nothing but disinformation. They didn't do any investigation. They'd get reports from New Mexico and they'd ball them up and throw them in the trash can. The scientists in New Mexico found out about this and became incensed that they were seeing these objects, and the people back primarily at Wright Field, or now Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, was not paying any attention to them. You have to understand, and this is one thing I try to get across in the book to people. There was great discord within the Air Force over the subject. There were those that had studied it and knew that we were dealing with something very real, something scientific, and others who had not dealt with it, who had done no research, wanted to explain it away as something prosaic. So there was of adversity within the Air Force over a subject that had real scientific value and had scientists working, well, Dr. J. Allen Hynek worked with the Air Force at first until he got disgusted with them and started the Center for UFO Studies. Dr. Hynek of Northwestern University, one of my true heroes, Dr. James E. McDonald, the famed atmospheric physicist from the University of Arizona, hammered on the Air Force unmercifully and the government to have congressional hearings into the subject of UFOs. So this is a huge story that it's to try to cover in a short period of time. That involved the government bringing in the Condon report of the Colorado project, and things turned out to be whitewashes, which, when you study them in detail, goes right back to a government cover-up of the entire subject. If you study them realistically and study them in detail, it's a clear of a government cover-up. And I don't know where our time is running, but I'll give you one. I'll give you, I think, the greatest example of all, and that is that Air Force Special Report 14, when Project Blue Book was authorized, after a general officer found that the Project Grudge was nothing but a propaganda machine, organized Project Blue Book, and it was initially run by the very capable Captain Edward Ruppelt, who actually did some investigative work. Ruppelt went out and hired, with government money, the Batille Memorial Institute, a very well-known think tank in Ohio, and commissioned them to study in the early 1940s flying saucers. The Batille Memorial Institute, after 2 years, studied 3,200 UFO cases, and they came back with their Air Force Special Report 14. And it was so lengthy, Secretary of the Air Force Donald Quayles got the report, went before the media and said, we now have an in-depth study of flying saucers. He never mentioned that it was done by the Batille Memorial Institute. He just said, we have an in-depth study. He said, however, we can't distribute it to you because we don't have the money to print it. It's so long. That's probably true. That was probably a true statement. But what he was, to summarize, they studied 3,200 cases. Out of those 3,200 cases, only 3% could not be identified. And of those 3%, could not be identified as something prosaic. And of those 3%, they consisted of the worst witnesses, the least amount of information, and the worst testimony. You can go now and look on the internet and see Project Special Report 14. It's on the internet. It came out. What Donald Quayles did, Secretary of the Air Force, he flat out lied. No question, he lied. Because what the report says, and again, you can go on the internet and see it wasn't 3%. It was 22.5% that could not be explained. And Robert, it's hard to round off 3% to 22.5% or vice versa.
Right.
Secondly, of the 22, they were not the worst. they had the best witnesses, according to the report, the most complete data. In essence, they were the best reports they had, and they could not be explaining 22.5%. The Air Force just flat out lied, and this lie has been going on for a long time.
All right, I've got two final questions before we end the show. One question is, do you believe there's any military alien bases in the world or in the States currently?
Again, that's in my grave basket. I don't know. I've heard those rumors. I'm, as I said, you know where I stand. I believe we're being visited by an extraterrestrial presence. I think they're looking around. I think they're keeping a watch over what we're doing. But whether they're bases here, whether they're undersea bases, whether we have a secret space command that has bases on the moon or Mars, as some people say.
Right.
You know, you hear all these stories that I'm very skeptical of. So I don't know. I simply don't know. I read them, I listen to them with interest, but I need some hard evidence.
Okay, and the last question is, as you know, there's the presidential nomination, the presidential elections coming up, and Hillary said that if she is elected, she will reveal everything about, or try to get all the information about Area 51. What is your thought on this?
Good luck to her. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think she's going to be in the need to know, and I don't think it's going to happen. Her husband wanted to get it, and so if he wanted to get that information, we know that Webster Hubbell in his book said that Bill Clinton said the two things I want you to find out for me is what the government knows about flying saucers and what the government knows about the JFK assassination. And he got neither one. So Hillary and Bill were deeply involved in the Rockefeller Initiative. I say in my book, I think that maybe they were just patronizing an older fellow with a lot of money. I don't know, but they didn't get anywhere with it. And none of the former presidents who said they were going to release UFO information have gotten anywhere with it. Jerry Ford didn't. Jimmy Carter didn't. Ronald Reagan, maybe he started to come a little close. I don't know. He didn't. Bill Clinton didn't. John Podesta is a big advocate of disclosure, but I don't think John Podesta has a need to know either.
Or the Bushes.
In fact, I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
And George Bush the first. No,
George Bush, which Bush?
the first senior. He was part of the CIA.
He was a member of CIA for 1 year. He was director of CIA for 1 year. Now, there have been a lot of directors of CIA that were directors a lot longer than George Bush. It could be that Bush, because of being vice president under Reagan, and because Bush Sr. was very trusted by the CIA, as you know, CIA headquarters is named after him. After he only served 1 year as director, he was very highly thought of. So H.W. Bush could very well have a great deal of inside information, and he could be on the inside. As could Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. I think all of these people living today possibly are on the inside of the knowledge of these very black subjects.
All right, perfect. And in closing, would you like to tell us about your website and your book or books?
Yeah, sure would. The book is The Presidents and UFOs, a history from FDR to Obama. The foreword is by nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman, who has spent, I don't know, Stan's spent probably 50 years researching this and lecturing on it. I think he's given over 800 lectures to universities and numbers of organizations. It was released in last year, in March of 2015, by St. Martin's Press. It will be coming out in paperback in a few weeks. And I have my website is www.larryholcombe.com. So if you would like to contact me, I would be, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
That's wonderful. And Larry, I want to thank you for coming on our show, and there will be a link which I will send to you once the show is up on YouTube. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It was a great pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I enjoyed it very much.
And we'll talk soon again. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye. Well, what a wonderful show we had on tonight for you guys, folks. I mean, it was amazing, and we had a lot of great information. I mean, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show with all the information that we had about all the presidents and all this information that Larry had.
Wow, that was deep, very deep. Everybody was paying attention because it was just so much good and well informative, right?
And I do hope that you guys will share the show once it's up and running. You know. All right, Mario. So now it's time for
wait.
Biblical time.
Yeah, because
the biblical of the night.
Because you know how everybody runs away whenever we pull out something from the Bible, and you know, people don't want to hear. So here it is. You know, if you want to read it, by all means.
Yes. 2 Peter 2:10 from King James Version. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness, and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed they are not afraid to speak evil of dignities.
So what do you think this means?
It talks about people that hate governments, and they're full of flesh, and they think that they know it all, and they're not afraid of anything.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting at.
But we shouldn't despise. We should not despise the government. We should not despise nobody, right? Because that's how it is.
Yeah, as hard as it is to do, but you know, the best thing to do is when you have a problem with something or someone, the best thing to do is leave it in God's hands, instead of, like, you know, getting angry, upset, and taking it. It's hard to do, but that's what must be done. Because I noticed that, especially today, a lot of Christians have been attacked, you know, and it's very bad, and we have to pray for them, because one of our personal friends has probably been attacked or something, and we want to pray out to him, don't we?
Yes, and the final one, because this one I like also.
John 3:15, King James Version. 1 John 3:15. Whosoever hath his brother is a murderer, and ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in him. I think this is talking about if you have a brother and you hate him, you're just a murderer yourself. You're just as bad as him.
Well, not just any brothers. Brothers in Christ it's also talking about. That's the thing. There's a lot of breakups in the family, but brothers in Christ, we always have to stick together. So that's it, the more or less about the Bible verses. You know, I always try and sneak them in, right?
Exactly. It's good to do at the end of the show, because like that, people will see it, and hopefully they'll get it, because if we do it being the show must, then we'll tune out. But hopefully our message will get out, and we'll be back very soon. And that's it for this week. God bless you. Thank you, all of you, for watching our show. Please share the video and get the word out, because we are here for you guys. We are the resistance. So until next time, God bless you all, and have a great evening or
All
day,
right.
wherever you be.
Thank you
Thank you.
all for watching. You people are amazing. And we'll be back, God willing, right? We shall be back. Thank you very much. Have a good night, people. Bye.